Hello guys, welcome to my new video, and today we'll be talking about restoration druids in BfA patch 8.2, and this is going to be very similar format to my Holy Paladin video. This is going to be an introduction to resto druids in the new patch, and this is aimed at new players or possibly, existing resto druid players in terms of what the gameplay is like, in 5 months in raid situations, what essences I feel are strong or what essences I'm using, what is the community perception of resto druids, and basically the future for resto druids in patch 8.2. So first of all, like the previous video, I'm kinda gonna cover the community perception first. So we're gonna be looking through some of the logs, we'll be looking through some of the information that's available, real life information in terms of 5 months, in terms of world first mythic race. And this is just to kind of, highlight the community perception or how community views restoration druids. So first of all, let's go and look at the mythic logs for the Eternal Palace. And the HPS is not always a true representation of how healer is performing, but you can see here resto druids are kind of middle of the pack. They're doing all right. They're not emerging as the best healer or the worst healer. Again, Holy Paladins seem to be performing really well. Glimmer seems to be doing really well in mythic raid content. It's not rash for me to assume, or at least to say, that the meta has been pretty ingrained in mythic raiding, with 2 discipline priests and 2 holy paladins being the norm for majority of raid bosses. I'm sure a lot of people saw method, I'm sure a lot of people saw limits tries, and majority of the time for a lot of raid bosses, people will just go either 2 discipline priests and 2 holy paladins, and then sometimes maybe there'll be a chance for other healer to get in, but it was very rare. So in terms of mythic raid performance, I feel resto druids do not really have a strong niche, but at the same time I also feel resto druids are probably one of the best pure HPS healers. And the reason I say pure HPS because holy paladins, discipline priests, their damage reduction cooldowns are really strong. The DPS that they do is really strong, and it can be a vital factor in mythic raiding. But overall, I feel resto druids have emerged as one of the strong pure HPS healers. And if we look at the heroic raid content, we see the similar kind of story here, except for the fact that holy priests and mystery warriors are doing really well in heroic content, and it makes sense. They're kind of reactive healers. Heroic content, you probably might have 30 people, healing cooldowns are really strong, holy war salvation and things like that. So it makes sense that holy priest and the mystery warrior would be top, and resto druid, discipline priest would be a little bit at the bottom, because again, proactive healers, they require some knowledge towards the fight, and we'll talk about all of that later on. If we look at Mythic Plus, it's a completely different story. It's one way, and that's the resto druid way. We're looking at Mythic keys 15 and up. I know it's early, it's very early to look at this. A lot of the top end Mythic pushing groups haven't even started to push. They're kind of going through this gearing period where they're trying to get as much gear as possible and then start pushing for those world first ranks. But you can see resto druid is still going to be very strong unless there's going to be some sort of nerfs coming in the next couple of weeks, because the world first race is over. But I don't think there's going to be nerfs. I think resto druid is safely one of the best mythic plus healers, and there are multiple reasons for them to be considered that. Now let's go to the resto druid themselves. This isn't going to be much of a guide video, it's more of an introduction style video. And first of all, I want to talk about essences, because I feel the existing resto druids might already know the gameplay. They want to talk about some of the essences and how it affects the gameplay. I feel there's been a lot of cheesing with essences in terms of restoration druid. There is 2 essences that have a weird interaction that Blizzard might change. I don't know, hopefully Blizzard is not going to watch this video. But in mythic raid content, I feel the combination of Memory of Lucid Dreams and a combination of ERT Minor is probably going to be the most popular combination of essences, and that is mythic raiding progression. So you don't know what the boss is going to be like, or at least maybe you're not sure how your mana is going to deal with it. This combination of Memory of Lucid Dreams Major and ERT Minor has been used by majority of healers out there who tend to have mana issues. So there is a lot of healers who tend to go with something similar, and this playstyle is gonna guarantee you a ton of mana. And I feel there is an upside and downside to this. To some extent, resto druid in raiding scenarios tends to have mana issues, and the more mana you have, the more spells you can perform. As a proactive healer, you can always be healing. Even if there is no damage happening at this given moment, you can still be pre-hotting, applying hots on people who have full HP because there's going to be damage in the next 10 seconds or the next 5 seconds. So technically proactive healers like Restoration Druids, like Discipline Priest, they can always use mana. It's different when you compare Resto Druid to something like a Resto Shaman. Resto Shaman can't really proactively heal. They need to really see the damage incoming. They're going to apply their chain or cast chain heals. To some extent, you can maybe build your cloud burst before damage comes in, but that's some 200 IQ plays. So majority of the time, Resto Shaman sees damage or Holy Priest sees damage, they're gonna heal. Resto Druid, Discipline Priest, they can proactively always push out their spells. And that's why mana essences have become really powerful, because during progression, maybe they're going to be like applying hots a lot of the time and things like that. And this has become a really core setup for majority of healers in this game right now. Now, I have to mention ERT, and I think ERT has a special place. Maybe not during progression, but maybe during farm content. Maybe you can get away with using ERT major, but even though Resto Druids have this cheese. So if you're running ERT and if you have this Azeroth trait, which is called Rampart Growth, and a lot of people will be familiar with this because it's a very good raid Azeroth trait as well. So if I apply my Life Bloom on a target, so this is probably going to be a tank a lot of the times, and if I pop my ERT and I heal myself or somebody else that doesn't have Life Bloom, look at my stacks of ERT. I'm getting 2 stacks per cast. So it's not uncommon for me to get 11 stacks, which is going to buff my healing by 44%. So there is a big major cheese to do with Rampart Growth, to do with Regrowths, to do with ERT major. So you can see that you can somehow, if you're capable or if you know that mana is not going to be an issue, you can try and cheese this sometimes and get better logs if you're into that kind of thing. But there are very weird interactions with Resto Druid and certain essences, and there's another essence that has a weird interaction, and we'll talk about it. So let's look at some of the essences that you tend to use in 5-man content, and I feel there is so much interpretation here, because I feel essences are going to change from week to week. They're going to change from affix to affix, change on whether your group has different composition. I've been using, to some extent, Memory of Lucid Dream is another weird interaction. So Memory of Lucid Dream is mainly used in raid scenarios because it gives you mana. Now, or at least it, generates more resources. So the weird interaction with Resto Druids and Memory of Lucid Dreams is that it also works with kitty form energy. So you can activate your Lucid Dreams and you can swipe away and you can see my energy going up like crazy. So you can see that there's, and at the same time my mana is also regenerating. So with this essence, you get extra energy, or at least your regen for energy is faster, your regen for mana is faster, and things like that. So I'm not sure if this is fully intended. A lot of people already know about this. They tend to use Memory of Lucid Dreams, maybe not only for the mana, but also for the DPS gain. Now, if you want the best pure DPS gain in like 5-man content, and I know a lot of Resto Druids will tend to do DPS in 5-mans because it's very important. If you're a high-end level Mythic plus pusher, you want to add DPS. I feel once you get your, or at least I'm trying to get my Crucible of Flame rank 3. Once I get rank 3, which means I need to get level 60 neck, I feel that's probably going to be the best pure DPS trait, like for single target and things like that. So I'm looking forward to test it out. At the moment, I haven't been using it because I'm not level 60 yet. But I feel a lot of top-end Resto Druids will be going with Crucible of Flame at one point or another, or they might be trying it out and testing it once they have rank 3. I feel Memory of Lucid Dreams is going to be a strong essence, especially for high tyrannical keys, because even at high tyrannical keys, even a Resto Druid can tend to have mana issues. So a lot of people tend to play it safe and maybe use Lucid Dreams on like 16, 17, 18, 19 tyrannical keys, where the boss fights will be 5, 6, maybe even 7 minutes long. So that's a consideration. In previous weeks, I've actually been testing Well of Existence Major. And for the people who are not familiar with Well of Existence, your overhealing or part of your overhealing is going to store, or at least is going to be stored up. You can see my little bar here right now. I have 75, 76, 78,000 overhealing that can be used for single target heal. And this is going to, get topped up every time you overheal and things like that. And I've been using it for Grievous. I wasn't sure whether it's going to be good because Maybe if the grievous stacks are going to be heavy, I'm not going to be able to fill this up. But honestly, during like easy parts of the dungeon, I can fill this up to full. And then when I feel the tank or somebody else has like 3 or 4 stacks of grievous, I can just use this, and this is gonna provide me a massive heal. And I felt that actually worked pretty well, even though Resto Druid I feel is one of the best healers to deal with grievous. So I've been experimenting with various different essences. I've been trying out life binders as well. I've been using life binders in raid scenarios as well. I feel life binders right now in heroic or lower end content is actually very viable. But once you go into mythic raiding and things like that, I feel life binders kind of drops off, and a lot of the Resto Druids tend to go, you know, with your default Memory of Lucid Dreams and ERT minor kind of essence slots. So that's very interesting to see, but I still feel life binders has its place, even in Mythic Plus and in raiding scenarios, depending on what content you do. So again, there is a lot of leeway in terms of what essences you're using in Firemans. In raids, I feel there's a little bit less. But in terms of the gameplay, there hasn't been a lot of things that change. I don't want to talk about Mythic Plus too much, because I feel a lot of people who play Resto Druid in Mythic Plus, they don't tend to have issues. It's basically getting as many mastery stacks as possible. If you're comfortable with DPS, with kitty weaving, it can provide a lot of extra DPS to the party. It can make Resto Druid a lot more fun. A lot of people tend to forget, or they're not aware of the fact that Resto Druid has kitty weaving, and there is a rotation of DPSs you can follow. You can apply your bleeds, you can stack up your points and things like that, your combo points. It is an interesting style, and I feel if kitty weaving wasn't viable, Resto Druid would definitely not be as fun for me. So I enjoyed that aspect. I think a lot of people tend to enjoy the aspect of the Resto Druid DPS, and it's one of the reasons that makes them really strong in Firemans, on top of the fact that their healing or, like, you know, mastery stacking is really strong. I am very happy with photosynthesis talent. I feel if Germination made a comeback in Fireman scenarios where you have to apply your rejuves over and over again, I would not have a lot of fun with my Resto Druid. As long as photosynthesis is a thing, I'm happy with Resto Druid in Firemans, because I feel applying your Life Bloom on the tank is going to increase your single target healing on them. Applying Life Bloom on yourself when there's AoE is very reactive. It's very smart type of play. It doesn't require a lot of global cooldowns. It leaves me with a lot of time to DPS. And I'm really enjoying this playstyle, and photosynthesis is still one of the best ways, or at least one of the best talents to use in Firemans, so I'm very happy. Now, raid situations is where I feel a lot of people will tend to have a lot of issues, and I feel there's a lot of Resto Druids who fall into a trap of thinking, hey, or at least maybe outside people, they'll look into Resto Druid and they'll be like, hey, Resto Druid is just rejuvenation. It's so easy. It requires no thinking at all. And I feel it's very ignorant to say that, because it's very easy to play Resto Druid, but it's easier to play Resto Druid bad in raiding situations, because Resto Druid is all about managing your cooldowns. If you use your basic rotation, and the basic rotation is just the uptime rotation, make sure Efflorescence is down, make sure Light Bloom is probably on a tank, make sure your Scenario Ward is probably on the tank. You know, you'll be casting your Wild Growths when there's AoE, you'll be pre-hotting or applying hots with rejuvenation and things like that. That's one of your basic rotations. And I feel if you just do that, your healing is gonna be okay. It's all about combining this basic rotation with your cooldowns, with your things like Flourish, with things like Incarnation Tree of Life. Maybe you have Lively Spirits Azeroth trait that lets you, or at least gives you an additional cooldown when you use Innervate. When you use Innervate, the more spells that you get off during that Innervate period, there's going to be an intellect bonus, and all of a sudden Innervate, combining it maybe with Flourish or maybe combining it with something else, becomes a raid cooldown. So there's a lot of different ways to really play your Resto Druid, and that's not even mentioning Tranquility. Tranquility will give you a hot as well, a stacking hot that's gonna be stronger the longer you cast it, and that hot can be extended by Flourish. So going into a fight, a Resto Druid has to know how they're going to use their cooldowns. You can't just go in willy-nilly, I'm gonna, you know, when damage happens, I'm gonna hot them up and use my cooldown. You have to know when the damage is gonna be incoming, like 10 seconds before or something like that. And you need to know what kind of cooldowns you're gonna be using. Maybe, for example, Shivaras, there's continuous AoE damage happening. Maybe you're going to be using Tranquility, and right after that, you're going to be extending it with Flourish. Maybe there's going to be a fight like, I don't know, Behemoth, where there's like, I feel Behemoth is not a great fight for Resto Druid because every minute or so there's burst healing needed and that's it. So you kind of need to pre-hot. You maybe want to use just Flourish by itself. Maybe you want to use, you probably will want to use Inner Peace, 2-minute Tranquility, so you can use Trank every time that happens. So you need to know the boss fights and you need to know how you're going to chain your cooldowns. Sometimes it's worth casting Trank into Flourish. Sometimes it's better to use Flourish by itself, maybe combine it with, you know, Lively Spirit's Innervate trait. Maybe sometimes you want to use Tree of Life, and maybe sometimes you want to use Tree of Life and combine it with Trank or something like that. Like I feel Courts or Queen's Court is a good example where there is a ton of AoE damage happening in the first 30 seconds, and maybe popping all your cooldowns and kind of staggering them a little bit is going to be the best because there's no more damage happening for the next like 2 minutes or something. So I feel a lot of Resto Druids fall into this trap. I feel a lot of Resto Druids will see poor numbers in lower end content because I feel Resto Druid is something like heroic content where you're over healing, or let's say where there's tons of reactive healers, and a Resto Druid who's coming into a boss fight, they don't know when to use cooldowns. Holy Priest is gonna heal when healing is needed. They're going to top up the person from 50% to 100% in a couple of seconds, and Resto Druid's HOTS are not going to be able to heal up. And all of a sudden Resto Druid is suffering. So I feel in lower end content with too many healers, there is nothing worse to play than a Resto Druid. But on the flip side, if you're doing like Mythic content where there is tons of healing needed, Gorgonzola or the Gorgonzola cheese boss fight is an amazing example where Resto Druid can fit in, and you know there's taking damage all the time. Resto Druid is so good. There's nothing more satisfying than playing Resto Druid when you know you don't bring too many healers. There's a lot of damage happening. Your HOTS tend to do a lot of, you know, they don't overheal too much. You can combine your cooldowns really nicely. You thought before the fight, I'm gonna combine it here, I'm gonna use this here, I'm gonna do this here, and all of a sudden with essences like Memory of Lucid Dream, essences like E or T, you don't have mana issues. You probably won't have many mana issues, and I feel that there's bad and good about it because all of a sudden now you can really rejuve everybody at all times because mana is not going to be an issue. My rejuvenation finger is hurting me a lot, but at the same time, you know, mana is not an issue. You can combine your cooldowns. With the more HOTS you have, the more mastery stacks you get. So I don't want to rant on too long about this, but in 5-man content I feel Resto Druid is going to be a reigning king. The utility is far too strong, mastery is really strong and things like that. So thank you guys for watching this video. Let me know what healer I should cover next. If you enjoy the content, please do subscribe, and I'll see you in my next